Hello, it's Shuriken255 here with a big update on Zozo games development. Almost 4 years ago, I had to pause Zozo games development, but I resumed working on it since July 2024. I decided to remake this game using the Love framework rather than continuing making it in per C. I also removed the 1 MB total size limitation from the game. This way I can focus on making the content for the game better and much faster. So far, I have prepared the engine with a level editor, mainly focusing on the features like auto-tiling, but the level editor is far from being finished, therefore it's not the topic of this video. The topic of this video is the music editor that I have been working on for the past 3 months. I will be using this music editor to make music and sound effects for the Zozo game. I included the demo song that was made in this music editor. So if you are not interested in the features that I have implemented for this music editor, you can go ahead and skip to this part. The audio it generates imitates the old NES sound chip. I have provided a good video that briefly explains how it works. You can find it in the description or the top right corner of this video. The only feature that my music editor does not support from the NES sound chip is the 1-bit sample channel, because I don't intend to use it. I think it is worth to mention that my music editor is heavily inspired by FamiStudio. It is a great program for making chiptune, but the reason why I decided to create my own program instead of using FamiStudio is described later in this video. So let's finally head to the music editor. Here you can see 4 tracks with 4 channels that I previously described. Let's set the first beat of pulse 1 track to pattern 1. When setting a pattern, it's going to loop until the song ends or the other pattern is set. Each track can have up to 255 patterns. Pattern 0 is reserved to stop any currently playing pattern. The piano roll shows currently active pattern in the song. You can drag the pattern's right edge to change the pattern's length. You can use the left mouse button on piano roll to add and move notes. Holding right mouse button removes the notes you hover your mouse over. Ctrl plus left mouse button allows you to select multiple notes using box selection. You can then drag these notes with the left mouse button, or you can hold Shift before dragging them to duplicate the notes. You can also copy-paste the notes using Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V. Delete button on the keyboard deletes all selected notes. On the top left corner you can see the snapping settings. You can change the denominator to switch the amount of steps in your beat. You can also click on the magnet to enable or disable snapping. With no snapping enabled, the notes are now going to be snapping to 1/60th of a second. The reason for it will be explained later in this video. Each note has its own volume that can be changed by clicking the note with the left mouse button while holding V and dragging it to the left or right. If you have multiple notes selected, you can edit all of their volumes at once. Holding S when dragging the notes up or down will change their slide respectively. Slide allows notes to gradually change their tone as they play. Holding F when clicking left mouse button allows you to create an event flag. This is what each of events do. Mute interrupts all currently playing notes. Volume sets the general volume of the channel. Volume slide makes the general volume increment or decrement after a specified amount of frames. Slide easing sets different easing for note slides. This is how each of them sound. Tremolo affects the volume of the channel by gradually decreasing and increasing its volume with a certain speed and range. Vibrato does the same, but with a tone instead of volume. Duty cycle changes the channel's general duty cycle. Auto note slide makes notes automatically slide towards the next note. Notes can have different instruments assigned to them. Instrument is a set of envelopes that allows you to give a note a different sound. Holding I on the keyboard opens a menu with 127 instruments that can be assigned to notes in all 4 channels. Left click assigns the clicked instruments to the selected notes. Notes added afterwards will automatically be assigned this instrument. Middle click on the instrument allows you to edit the information about the instrument, such as the name of the instrument or its color, using the color wheel. Right-clicking on the instrument will open it in the envelope editor, where you can set how the instrument is supposed to sound. You have 4 envelopes that can be edited: duty cycle, volume, pitch, and arpeggio. Both pitch and arpeggio envelopes affect the tone of the note. Pitch allows more precise control, but with a lower range, while arpeggio allows much bigger range, but with precision, tied to semitones. You can press the key on the piano keyboard to test how the current instrument sounds. Each envelope allows you to set looping points. After reaching the end of the envelope or the loop end, it returns to the loop start point. When releasing the note, the envelope goes past the looping point and plays the envelope to the end, stopping at the last symbol. You can set the note's release by dragging the note left and right while holding R on your keyboard. Another property that you can set to the note is called arpeggio. When you hold P, the menu shows up that works the same as the instruments menu. Arpeggios only have one envelope, and its main purpose is to allow playing chords using only one channel by quickly switching the notes of the chord it's playing every frame. Another note parameter that I have not covered yet is a note attack. It allows you to play multiple notes in a row as a single note. For example, I want the note to slide down and up as it plays, but it makes it sound like multiple notes because the instrument envelopes keep refreshing with each note. Removing note attack from these notes would make it sound much better. You may have noticed that you can have multiple notes playing at the same frame. How does that work considering the channel can only play one note at a time? The answer is very simple. Every frame, it checks which note is the loudest at the current frame and only plays that note during that frame. It allows seemingly combining several elements of the song into a single channel. Doing this in Famous Studio requires a lot of micromanagement that forces you to memorize the volume samples in the instrument envelope to have better results. My music editor handles it automatically. I decided to take it one step further and implemented layers to the patterns. Each pattern has 2 layers that can be switched at the top left corner of the piano roll. Each layer has its own parameters, notes, and events as if they are their own channels. When it comes to render, they compete with one another to determine which one of them has the loudest note at the current frame, and the winner's loudest note is chosen to be played for this frame. Now let's talk about the general song information that can be changed. When you press Tab, the window pops up that allows you to change the song's name, length, and tempo. Tempo is measured in frames per beat rather than beats per minute. It is more practical considering that the channel states change every frame. When adjusting the tempo, the notes in the pattern stretch their position and duration. It is not perfect, but I'm only planning to change the tempo of the song at the very beginning of composing it, so little inaccuracies are not so much of a problem. You can also set the loop beat of the song. When the song reaches the end, it's going to start playing the song from this beat instead of playing it from the very beginning. Very useful for making intros for the infinitely looping songs. You can also add, edit, and remove markers from the song by holding M while clicking on the tracker. The markers are going to be used as timestamps to reference in the game code. And now the thing that I'm very proud of. Everything you added in the music editor can be undone by pressing Ctrl-Z on your keyboard and redone by pressing Ctrl-Shift-Z or Ctrl-Y on your keyboard. It also goes to the same pattern or envelope where the change has occurred on undoing or redoing this action. Switching the song resets the action history. If you press Ctrl-Enter, it exports the song as a WAV file that you can play on your computer or put it into other software. I will be using this feature when planning and animating boss fights for the game in other software. A little detail. When you close the music editor while having unsafe changes, it prevents you from closing it and shows a warning window that is similar to other unsafe changes warnings the other softwares provide. All music data including songs, instruments, arpeggios, their colors, and names is stored in a tiny, size-efficient file. And the very big bonus, the visualizer. It visualizes the song that is currently playing in the music editor. You can see fallen notes in the middle and the oscilloscopes for each of the channel on the bottom right. You can control the music playback on the bottom panel as well as the playback volume and slow down the song. You can also mute or unmute channels by clicking their oscilloscopes. And this is the visualizer I'm going to use to showcase the demo song that I made using this music editor. Enjoy! So now I think it's a good time to answer a very possible question. Why spending so much time and effort to make a music editor when you can just use any other program to make chiptune, render it as OGG, and play it in the game? Well, the reason is I'm stubborn. I have a very specific vision on how the audio is supposed to function in my game. At first, I didn't intend on creating the music making software, but despite dropping the 1 megabyte restriction, I still really wanted my game to use very tiny audio files. I was looking into NSF files and even tried to write a 2AO3 emulator that would play the audio from these files, but it was too complex and I eventually gave up on this idea. I was also looking for ways to use Famous Studio files to render the song, but couldn't decipher them. Still, I couldn't accept big audio files in my game. Therefore, creating a music editor was a very desperate decision pushed by my stubbornness. But I also accepted it as a new learning experience. There may be a time in the future when I will be making different types of editors for people, so making something like this will help me to get better at it. Well, that's all I wanted to say about this music editor. My next focus is making an easy workflow when making animations for the game. This workflow will also be used for making boss fights. Most likely I'm going to end up making something similar to what I made for the Doors game, which is a plugin that converts animations from Flash 8 into a file that has all resources required to recreate this animation in Love. I will make the next update video when the animation workflow is completely done. After that, I will switch back to working on the level editor for the game. If you are interested in this project, you can join Discord server where I stream work progress as well as log daily accomplishments and future work sessions. The link to this server is in the description. That's it. I hope you found this video interesting and see you next time.